University of Missouri St. Louis College of Education podcast. Hello and welcome. My name is David Stouffer and I get to be the recruitment coordinator for the UMSL College of Education. Each week on this podcast, we will meet an innovator in the field of education. We will spend some time getting to know them and learning about their work and how it can help you in yours. It is my sincere hope that this podcast will be a source of encouragement and support as you work to continue impacting lives as an educator. My guest today is Dr. Amber Candela. Dr. Candela began with a bachelor's in mathematics from St. Bonaventure University in New York and then became a seventh grade math teacher in Charlotte, North Carolina. She received a master's in math education from Appalachian State University and then began a career as an eighth grade math teacher in Spanish Harlem, New York. She received a PhD in mathematics education from the University of Georgia.
Go Dogs.
And began a career at the University of Missouri St. Louis in 2014, where she now serves as an associate professor in the Department of Education, Preparation, and Leadership.
Go Tritons.
Welcome, Dr. Candela.
Thank you.
So let's start off. I'm very interested to hear more about your background, your journey, how you wound up here in the University of Missouri St. Louis. So tell us a little bit about your journey and how you wound up here.
Such a loaded question. So I started, I was good in math, and so I thought I'd be a math major in college. I didn't know what I wanted to do with that major, and I had an opportunity actually to go to El Salvador, and I found myself working with kids around mathematics, and there was just such joy in that for me, just working with students, that I was like, maybe I'll be a math teacher. So I got an undergrad or a minor in education with my math degree and secondary math, 612, and decided my friends want to move to Charlotte, and I was like, sure. So I got a teaching job in Charlotte. We moved right out of college, and I taught there for 2 years. And what most people don't know is in New York State, you actually need to have a master's within 5 years of getting your undergrad to keep your New York State certification. So I asked around, and everyone's like, App State is the best teaching college in North Carolina. So I went there to get my master's in math ed. And as an undergrad, I never took a methods course in math teaching. I took math classes, I took education classes, and so I was a super procedural teacher. I stood at the front, I told them what to do, they did it, and that's how class went. And so when I went to App State and got a master's in math ed and we had classes pedagogy, I was like, what is this pedagogy word? And we started talking about how kids learn mathematics, and I was like, this is very different. And so I went, my cousins were like, we're living in New York City. And I was like, yep, okay. Moved to New York City and got a job in Spanish Harlem. So that was possibly one of the best experiences of my life. And I taught eighth grade math, and I loved every second of it, but I had 3 principals in 3 years. And when I got in a fight with my principal about bulletin boards, and I was like, this isn't what we should be arguing about, I decided, and I also just noticed so I love teaching mathematics, and I want to impact students, but I just noticed how teachers were teaching, open the book, do the problems, turn to the next page. And I was like, I think I could have more impact on students by teaching future teachers. And then I landed at the University of Georgia, got my PhD there, Go Dogs. And I really learned about, the tasks we give kids and access, and I wanted to be in an urban institution. I wanted to be in a city. I missed the city. And so I came to St. Louis and I loved it. And so now I've been at UMSL. This is my 8th year.
So let's talk about that passion a little bit about mathematics. When I've seen you teaching and when I've seen you working in front of groups, you really seem to model a true educator, the way you would teach your classes no matter what age group you're working with, whether it's staff and faculty, whether it's a classroom. Talk about your passion, what you just said, working with teachers and helping them learn to teach mathematics.
Well, I think we have this way of thinking about mathematics where it's kids sit in desks alone and work. And if my kids walked into my classroom and there were rows, they were like, oh no, we totally forgot it was a test today. Like that's my kids worked in groups, productive noise, learning is social, and math is difficult. And so we take one of the more difficult subjects to learn and we make people do it in isolation, and that's not productive. And so how can we have more people who love math and teachers who aren't as scared of it? A lot of teachers are scared to teach mathematics. I mean, I hear that in my elementary classrooms all the time. Like I'm scared to teach it. I'm scared to mess up. I'm like, you're going to mess up. I just was doing a division problem and I'm trying to subtract two numbers and I don't do it right. Like I mess up all the time, but that's okay. We're learning from our mistakes. And I think that one of the things I learned is how many different ways you can solve a problem and still come to the same. So we all can be like creative. How you do it is different and we can talk about it and come to that understanding together. And I try to bring that into my classes. Like we learn through talking and by doing. And so I really try. I love to talk, but I try to not talk a lot in my classes because they get to learn it when they get to play with it. And like you're playing with math. You're trying to put things together and take things apart. And so I really try to bring that in all grade levels. Like that's how you learn.
You mentioned joy, creativity, and curiosity into your classrooms and into your teacher preparation. How do you incorporate that?
So I want people. There's a lot of joy in mathematics, and I want people to experience that. Like, what happens when you solve a problem and you feel joyful about it, or when you were really creative with this way of thinking. And I've had students come up and be like, I solved it this way, and I mean, I've been in some sort of classroom since 2003, and I give problems that I still see different answers to, and they're so proud of themselves, and they enjoy that that ability just to be able to like think on their own. It's not. So I think we've always thought that math is what's given to you by the teacher, and I want to change it. It's what's given to us by the students. The students are the ones who get to do it, and they're sharing with us what they've done, and let them be curious and play around with the problem and figure out how they can do it and how they can apply it to another problem, and like let that curiosity spark their learning. And I think math has just become this thing that we're like, oh, math. And I want people to be like, yes, math, I love it. And so I try to bring that enthusiasm into my classes so that my teachers will bring that enthusiasm into their students' classrooms.
What do you think is needed in the classroom setting for the traditional teacher to make some of those changes? Because that's a big step for some who are just used to doing things a certain way. And then to bring that joy and creativity is a big stretch. It's a big challenge and definitely out of a lot of teachers' comfort zones. So how do we help those teachers get into that more mindset?
I think confidence. I think we need to have confidence in our abilities. And I think that you're going to try things out as a teacher and you're going to fail like all the time. And that's okay. But when you try certain things out and you find your kids engaged a little bit more in that problem solving or stick with it a little bit longer and you notice how your students start to be successful in different ways, I think that gives you more success as a teacher. I do think you need a certain level of content knowledge. I think one of the things we talk about a lot in our methods courses is you only learn this one way to do a problem. Let's learn 6 ways to do a problem. Do you have to have all 6 of these mastered? No, but when your students walk up to you, you need to understand what it is that they're doing. And so I just think I think people need permission to teach it in a different way. It's okay to step off to the side for a minute and have these conversations with your kids. It's okay if you spend a day in class doing one problem. Your kids learned a lot from that. And so we as teachers do what we were taught, how we experienced it. And I think we need to give teachers space to find what works for them and their students. And as teachers, what works one year might not work the next year, but you just, again, teaching is play too. Like we play and we learn and we adapt and we figure it out. And as you watch your students get excited, one thing we talk about is doing a notice and a wonder in a classroom. So instead of just putting up a problem, put up a sentence, put up a picture, have kids notice and wonder about it. And typically they're going to come up, like one of the ones we did is we had a picture of I hope I'm allowed to say like Oreos, like Oreo cookies in a package. And all of the cookies were not there. And I said, what do you notice? What do you wonder? And they're like, why aren't they double stuffed? How many cookies are there? Do we get to eat cookies later? And then what do you wonder? How many are there? How many are missing? How many would make the package full? And so then we start to talk about the mathematics around that, and then we do some problem solving with that. And just getting everybody in the classroom, anyone can notice something. There's no wrong in that. Anyone can wonder something. And so just getting kids engaged that way, and then they're bought in. And like, oh. Even just having like a word problem without the question.
Now, what did your kids decide what did your kids decide was the proper way to eat the Oreo cookie?
We actually
Do you have
didn't.
to twist it apart first and separate it? Or
We
can
did
you
not
eat it all
have
at
that
once?
conversation.
Because that's ultimately one of the greatest debates in human history.
Right.
Okay. Talk about your work with current teachers in the elementary math specialist degree program.
Yeah, so we have this unique opportunity at UMSL for teachers to come back and get that content knowledge. And so as an elementary teacher, wherever you've been prepared, you might have only had 1 or 2 math content level classes. And so there are a few universities around the state who came together to create this program that is backed by DESE. There is an assessment you could take at the end of it, and DESE says you're an elementary math specialist. And you go through and you take content classes related to elementary mathematics. So really breaking it down, number and operations, probability and statistics, geometry, rational number, and really thinking about the content at the elementary level of what you're teaching, coupled with leadership courses for those who maybe want to step outside of the classroom and be a coach or a curriculum specialist in mathematics. So it allows for that leadership option also.
And you get to take time to work a lot on the instructional strategy side of things as well, some of that creativity and joy and curiosity that you mentioned before in this program?
Yeah, so during the year, so it's for practicing current full-time teachers. So the classes are blended during the school year. So number and operations, because that's just what's sticking in my brain. That's the course that's happening right now, is you take the number and operations course online and you learn about the content, and then there's a internship that goes along with it that meets face-to-face or synchronously, depending on how things are going. But you meet with your classmates face-to-face and you talk about how you're implementing some of these ideas in the classroom. So those are what happens in each semester. So there's always a teaching component along with the learning the content component. And then the summer classes are 100% online because we recognize that teachers want to be able to take classes from wherever they might be over the summer. And then it starts fall, spring, summer, and you're done.
Great. If someone wants more information about the program, where can they go to find information?
The UMSL website,
There you go.
elementary math specialist.
Gotcha. Yeah,
And
or
myself and Marty will get back to you.
Marty Ward is one of our graduate advisors. And then, of course, anyone can contact me anytime. David Stouffer, Recruitment Coordinator for the UMSL College of Education. My phone number is 314-243-0773. Dr. Candela, I'm excited just hearing about your passion, not just for the subject of mathematics, but also for teaching kids math. And I thank you for your work, and I thank you for everything you do for kids and for teachers. So thank you.
Thank you.
I am honored that you chose to join me today for the University of Missouri St. Louis College of Education podcast. I hope you'll join me next time. Till then, I'm David Stouffer. Thank you for the work you do. Never forget, you are making a difference every day.